Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and I had a request from one of my partners to do Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Um, Basically, this is the book that put Batman back on the map. Batman had many classic, incredible artists, Neil Adams being one of them, many great writers, um, Danny O'Neill, who recently passed, Steve Englehart, Mike W. Barr, Doug Mensch. We had Roy Thomas, Jerry Conway. The names go on. Harlan Ellison did a couple issues, but for some reason, the books weren't selling, right? They gotten past the Batman TV show, but for some reason, Batman wasn't selling. And something needed to happen to kind of remind everyone that Batman was a success, right? That Batman was a hot character, like the Marvel stuff, right? So Frank Miller was in talks to do The Dark Knight, and Dick Giordano, um, who also passed, had gotten Frank to join, and he was talking about doing a Batman story, and it went through many different drafts. And slowly, Frank Miller decided that Batman should be older. Since he was realized he was going to be older than Batman, maybe Batman should be older, and that shaped the story. And at the same time, he also decided Batman shouldn't have a Robin. And I think, I know John Byrne talked him out of it. He said he should have a Robin and it should be a girl. He'd already seen it in the Batman TV show, Joe St. John as Robin. He thought it looked good, and he also saw one of the Hernandez brothers do a female Robin, and then there was like, yeah, you should do that. And that became Carrie Kelly. You see the ad, the Batman saying Batman and Robin at their gritty best. That was the ad. So what we were thinking we were gonna get was the noir Batman done by Frank Miller. So what he'd done in Daredevil, but since Daredevil was kind of a junior Batman, like Batman with a handicap, if we put Frank Miller on Batman doing noir stuff, we're right in the house. But Frank added one other wrinkle to it. And what he added was the Marvelization of Batman. And you say, nope, that was John Byrne. And I say, yep, this was Batman. Batman had done it first. Batman had this many elements of Batman in this story, and as we go through the series, you're gonna see it, right? One thing is the internal monologue. Now, many characters in comic books have like a thought balloons, but Batman's as an older, crabbier sort of superhero was more like Wolverine, who Frank had done. This obviously is not Frank Miller's cover, but just to give you an idea, we're going to be moving these books around. Just to give you an idea, here's the Neil Adams book on Batman, and they didn't really kill themselves of having Batman sort of what his thoughts were. But at moments they did have it. But it's not the same way that let's see, right, like here. It's very direct. It's not really crabby and insulting and that sort of thing. Even though you might say this is an older Batman, there's a style of how Denny was writing it that a lot of people kept, right? Very confident sort of person, isn't, subject to doubt or worry or anything like that. And that's not what, even though I mentioned Wolverine, it basically all the tricks that Stan Lee would do in his writing. All of the things that happen. And as you see the series go along, you'll start to see this because there's a style of how that's not just Wolverine, but a lot of Marvel characters is about heroes fighting heroes and the David and Goliath aspect. And even though Superman was known as what was it? He's known as the adolescent power fantasy. Batman and this David and Goliath thing is kind of the ultimate power fantasy of the little person defeating something large. I don't know how Grant Morrison described it, but I've co-opted it for that meaning. So ultimately, we got through it. We hinted what this is. It's another thing that the other thing is going to be taken from, and even though I can say it's similar to a DC character, a lot of the conventions of Iron Man is in this book. Basically, every great Iron Man story has a situation where Iron Man's stuff doesn't always work. It fails on him. He worries about it. He fights someone, like there's always a David and Goliath thing where it's human in armor. He sort of charges up so he can fight characters like Thor and the Hulk. And in doing so, he almost dies fighting them, right? And that's basically the story of the Dark Knight. Iron Man, they did it in a What If comic written by What If 3. The early Iron Mans. In this volume, they have some of that in here. So the Hulk versus the Hulk, when Iron Man tries to cure the Hulk, and then he almost dies after knocking out the Hulk, all plays out in this book here, right? So we're gonna try to keep this in mind, and hopefully I'll be able to stay on point as we go, because there's a lot to go through. These are 48-page issues, and it's very gorgeous art. A lot of rough things. It's definitely not pretty, but the effects that Frank Miller, Klaus Janson, and Lynn Varley do, they just do. This is them. I mean, you can quip about the story and all that stuff, and some of the issues of that, but ultimately, this is a mood piece. This is a piece that kind of the first thing to lay the flag down to say Batman is cool, and people should be checking it out. And it kind of raised awareness. It took a little while longer before it really started to catch, but this was the start. This was to put the Batman right back on the map, right? These are new drawings that were done around, I guess, when this trade came out. I think this was like almost 2000. So it's sort of like in the Sin City stage, right before he really went cartoony, and right before Dark Knight Strikes Again, right? So this is a start. Nope, I already said all that stuff about Marvel. Now I want to talk about something totally different. This stuff here, not this stuff here. All these news things that's going on here, this is similar to what was in Howard Chaykin's American Flag. And even though this has been used by Image Comics and still to this day doing the reporters to give this a global feel so you can get a lot of information in these panels to say what's going on in Gotham, besides this panel here that's showing that it's hot, the city's hot and smoking, right? And how no relief in sight. But this is something that Howard Chaykin would do a lot. And then I think Frank Miller also did this in the Superman 400, where he did a story where they had almost a George Reeves Superman in it, right? So we have Bruce Wayne in this scene, and here's a lot of 16 panel pages that Miller does in this, and it gives it a real cinematic feel where you can get the beats, and something like I think Stranko had done in his Captain America. Having this many panels sort of adds sort of drama and pacing, almost like sort of like a MTV sort of cutting type of deal, right? Even though people don't like to talk about comics and other genres, right? So here's one of the things I'll just point out is that I think Commissioner Gordon should be halfway in the grave at this point, but he's still just like on seemingly like a 5-year difference, when in actuality in this continuity there was a good, 30 to 40 year difference between Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon, unless you could say he had premature gray. But now we have this thing where Frank Miller always believes that the smart characters always knew who the secret identity was. They just never said anything, right? But there's some key things here that connect to Iron Man. We have the mustache, and we also have the drinking, right? And he's saying that he's really drinking now, right? So we can throw back to Batman. We on Crime Alley. We have these guys, which are the mutants, and they have, what do they have? They have something similar, a visor, similar to Cyclops, right? Who's got that visor, right? But this is cool. Frank Miller's done 3 million of these scenes where these crooks come in and confront someone. But what's the name when he says, I don't know, man. Look at him. He's into it. And this where we see Bruce Wayne is tormented. These guys don't attack him. They just walk away. And he was too into it and they broke out. So this is going against type for Frank. We got to say that, right? Now let's see if we can move. Well, see, that's the thing. There's so much stuff in this thing, right? So here, this is not Marvel related. So I should point out that. Same with like this. This is making fun of psychology. Now Arkham is a home for the emotionally troubled, right? So he is sort of locked up. But they're hoping for the best. So they're working on Harvey Dent also. And they fixed him. They fixed his face. Right? And they get to his history, some stuff he's done. And then they cure him. Gordon's not with it. But Bruce Wayne is having hope that he could do it. But then there's these bats that are around the city that are haunting Bruce Wayne, right? And he has a dream of when he was a kid. We don't know if this is real or not. And he falls in, and then you got the Frank Miller eyes here. And this bat claims him. And Bruce Wayne, he goes down into the bat cave, which is kind of closed off, right? He said, I gave my word for Jason. Never, never again. Right? What is that? Batman lost his partner. Where does that come from? It comes from Captain America. Captain America losing his partner, right? And having that. This is for the first part of the Captain America series. Cap is struggling with, even Avengers 4, the loss of his partner. And that's going to play out in the first 2 issues, right? So that's another Marvel sort of thing. Yes, but like I'm just saying, Captain America is really the early part of Captain America is him struggling with the death of Bucky, right? So of course things are going awry with Two-Face. He's back. Bruce Wayne is drinking once again. Now I wasn't necessarily with the idea of a cynical Alfred, but Alfred is kind of stuck with a Bruce Wayne that has, doesn't have any heirs. He's having to say goodbye to the Wayne line. So it's kind of a letdown for Alfred. I don't like that when he came to the regular comics, they were doing the same, right? So this is where Frank Miller kind of over dramatizes Batman's origin, right? Now, Neil Adams already added in that Martha Wayne didn't just have a heart attack. This one, doing the cinematic stuff with the 16 panel pages, where you get to see this almost like harsh cuts or rapid action going on. Or you could look at it could be slow motion, right? And we see this happening, they're losing the pearls, and then both being killed. Then he walks off, and this is a man being tormented. So this part is really Batman, because Batman has kind of had this oath, the war on crime, and this is Batman that has given up his oath on war on crime, right? He's still thinking about it, and at the same time, the bat comes again, right? We see the rumble starting. So this is one of the things where it's not really Marvel related, but does a lot of Bollywood type effects with the titles, right? And that's one of the things of the American flag. But Bollywood already done it before, and I think Che can work with Wally, so it's kind of got it by osmosis type of deal, right? And you get to see all these quick effects to show that this Batman is a little grittier, for this gritty world. A lot of the sound effects, you can almost hear it. We get introduced to Carrie Kelly here. They're about to be taken out by the mutants again. See the visor. And then these batarangs are a little more lethal. Batman takes apart these guys. Tosses them. And then the news reporters giving you more bits. And they realize that the Batman is back. And of course he's back, right? And this is where you kind of get a little Kirby in there. Getting this splash page. And then the next page is, and Miller was no stranger in Daredevil doing these type of effects. But this one is just like everything coming together, right? And these men are mine, right? So this Batman is a little more possessive and and a little darker than he was before. Welcome to hell, right? That sort of thing. So that's not something the Batman before this would do. But Batman's kind of like a force of nature in this book, right? But he had the internal dialogue that's going on here. These captions or his narration that's going on here is a little bit, close to what we'd see in the Claremont Wolverine story, right? There are 7 working defenses from this position. 3 of them disarmed with minimal contact. 3 of them kill. The others hurt, right? This is getting back to Batman of old that would put the beats on them and hurt people, that sort of thing, right? The cops are here. What a cool effect. And he realized it could be someone playing like Harvey Dent, right? Then the Joker hears about Batman. Now this is the other thing. Like no. Marvel wasn't the hero infects the villain type of deal. So I can't say that. I'm not going to go that far. The pundits, they also say Miller was a big TV guy, so he's playing up everything you see in TV. And you can see this in Spawn and all the other Image books, right? Then, of course, playing sort of to the comedy. And here we go. The visor, like Cyclops, and the mutants are still talking their stuff. This goes back, and now I hinted about some Marvel stuff, but this goes back to the early Batman, done with the 80s sort of Death Wish type of deal. Right? So then we get all this cool Sin City stuff. These characters, we know who they are, but they're clearly understandable in total darkness. We see the Joker's back. He's ready saying, what kind of bombs? And this is the real coming out party for Batman, right? Batman's got a gun. They're like, oh, sweat. Right? He's a marksman and whatnot. And then we have Two-Face doing his thing, or someone who might be Two-Face. They shoot Batman. He falls. We think it's over. But nope. It was actually to get to the plane. The helicopter. He gets it. We see Harvey. Crazy. Jumps from the plane. Jumps from the helicopter. Batman is ready. Catches him. Takes him apart. And it says Harvey. And he feels it's just like him. Right? A reflection. And we see the bat leave that's been around there. Right? So this would be more to the Lost Partner episode, right? And this would be similar to with Captain America, right? Where there was someone who looked just like Bucky Barnes, which is, and you see this dark effect here. You don't see the face, but it's actually Rick Jones here, right? And so you could be Bucky's double, right? So they work together, but there's a constant thing where Cap doesn't want to make Rick Jones his partner, right? So we turn the page and we got a Robin, right? We got the same thing, but this, instead of looking like him, this taking up the mantle, right? So we're rushing through some of this story, setting up this through TV, so we have the shorthand, so we don't have to set them up where they're at. And I think this, over time, kind of took away from Frank Miller's stuff, because it didn't leave him needing to set up these villains. He could just kind of put them on the screen, set them up like this. This is the darkest thing, I think, in this series. This guy's got a gun, he kills his own people. Batman shoots. You don't see this guy with a hole in him, but we don't know. Batman's got a gun in hand, right? And we see Carrie Kelly. She's able to do her thing. She said it doesn't suck. Batman's doing his thing. Some of the all black. Some of these effects in there, the sort of drawing, some stuff he learned from doing Ronin, like doing solid blacks and leading to these reveals, to this cool stuff. And then Batman's getting a lot bigger in this thing, so it's having like a Kirby feel, right? So then showing, this is kind of for the period, that whole Death Wish, Bernie Gates thing, of these mutants just terrorizing the city. And I keep saying the mutants so you can get that the mutants have taken over, right? The mutants have taken over, right? You know which mutants they are. They're these guys. The mutants have taken over. It's going to lead to our issue 3, right? The X-Men, right? This is an American flag thing, if anything, right? But I'm giving you some tidbits, but this book is about mood, energy, and the stuff that you can just look at and it's just cool. You can get to the story and find some issues with it because you're saying, oh, this, that, and the other. I think someone had a problem with Ellen Yindel, but I mean, like, come on. There's them lesbians kind of look like this. Like, I don't know why they're going crazy. So we meet the leader of the mutants. Now this guy is basically like the villain of the time. The stronger than the hero. Then of course this is the period of having a tank. There's so many war comics out. So there's just so much stuff that he's just throwing in here that just works. This stuff is not Batman stuff. This isn't even Marvel stuff. This is like, Arnold Schwarzenegger type stuff. But at the same time, who cares? Look at this. We have this monster that comes in and Batman's fighting him. He's doing okay, but over time, his age gives win. And this thing with ego, Batman isn't really a character of ego, but this is the point where his ego kind of gets crushed. But of course, and he's struggling with the loss of a partner that would help him or draw the attention away from him so then he could fight. And then of course the replacement, who Batman hasn't accepted yet, comes and helps him enough so he could get out of there, right? And then of course she helps him out. This is the Iron Man moment where the guy's close to death, but not dead yet, right? And then, of course, we got a hint to Superman, right? And Superman connected to the government yet again, but then we have this. And a lot of times, I guess it would be a lot of comics where it'd be like, what is it? What's that issue? Like a Spider-Man versus a Scorpion, where he would lose badly, then come back and be able to take out this villain, right? So that's a common motif in the Marvel comics, right? The Joker is playing games with this whole thing is just playing off of psychology stuff here, more Bernie Gates type of stuff, right? And then, of course, throw back to the dead partner, right? So these are elements, why I'm pointing this out, these are elements that aren't necessarily a part of Batman's conventions. And y'all be jumping the gun to say this character, Iron Man Vasquez, is called to Iron Man, but, it's stuff that's there. Like, you can't get around it, right? And this to show you how bad the villain is, kills a man, how stupid politics can be. And then we have, but this goes differently. Instead of Captain America second guessing, he accepts a partner, right? But taking the Captain America part, Batman acts like this is a soldier, right? We hadn't heard that Jason, Dick Grayson, they were Batman soldiers, right? So you have some casualty, but the war goes on. And that's really not that Captain America's character, but it's taking that and saying this is a grim and gritty sort of Captain America. So Batman never talked about his partners as his ward. This is the Cape Crusader, the dynamic duo. It's not a war, but it shifts. And what's the symbolism of? The symbolism of, like, Captain America, right? They set up this new fight. We have the two commissioners talking, right? She's kind of let down with the commissioner. And the mutants are drawn out. They have this talk so they can have this final fight. This is a lot of ego for Batman, but he has it planned out. If he beats him in front of these people, he can beat the mutants, right? So we have a showdown like any other comic book. But this time, Batman is using his smarts as the old man against at this point where he's the old man against the young lion. So we have it kind of reversed. We're not doing what I said. This is the thing why people are looking at it and say, this makes sense. This makes total sense because, hey, this is the old wolf against the young lion. And it makes more sense to do this. The Batman's... get out of here. Don't do that. He outsmarts him, uses his skill over this brute force and wins, right? And some of the mutants said the mutants are dead, right? Now, this is the thing. I tried to do this before, but I missed it on my first try, right? So when we get this, Commissioner Gordon's going. He's talking about Sarah, right? We get to hunt the Dark Knight. Now, if you remember Batman from, even though I'm saying it's from the X-Men, when Batman first was introduced, he used to be attacked by the cops. He'd be fighting against, trying to catch criminals, and the police would chase him at the same time. So this, is it in this issue? Yeah, it's in this issue. In this issue, it's going to turn into Batman being feared and hated by the world he's sworn to protect. This is the point of this thing. So as Frank Miller's making this shift in the Dark Knight 3, we hear that the heroes have actually been stopped. They're not supposed to be doing their superhero. They're not supposed to be vigilantes or costume adventurers. They've been outlawed, right? And many have pointed out that in the first two issues, they don't know what happened to Batman. And now there's the decree to get rid of heroes. They already know what happened. Batman had to stop, had to throw, hang up the cape, right? But this plays for another Batman scene. So it's a little X-Men, because we know the X-Men have this, but Batman had this beforehand. So Miller's kind of taking that stuff back, of Batman being chased by the police, to Batman. But he went one step further and added some things where Batman kind of was like saying that we're criminals. We were criminals. So this kind of a real kind of awkward take. I can't even say that's Marvel, but it's something like Marvel might. I don't know. Let's go. So, but Batman's a master of disguise, right? So as we go along, we have the young partner who brings the fun to this, having a kid in danger. That's just some really cool stuff here. His papers, because I feel like I haven't seen this in ever, right? I never took notice of it. Right? Batman, see, he's always being lucky. Something similar to something like Wolverine would say. And then, one of the greatest scenes ever, where this a-hole pushes this guy in a train. He's can't no way to get out, and someone stopped him. I don't know many people talk about that scene, right? Batman fighting this chick. She's a villain. It's okay for villains to have the swashstickers. She's not a good guy, so I don't know why people flip out about that, right? And then the cynical attitude that Batman has towards Superman, right? And the awe from the kid, right? So my orders were specific, right? And this is, I think, Frank Miller said when he finally decided, yes, he realized having the junior partner makes the hero look even bigger, right? So he's still a detective, but at the same time, he's more of this war on crime, right? And Yindel becomes the commissioner. Batman knows the Joker's still alive. So now we have this monologue, this internal dialogue, where he's about to feel like he's going to kill the Joker. But this one isn't really the big Joker story like the Five-Way Revenge or the Laughing Fish. This is just Joker as a terrorist, right? Right. So let's push this down. We have Superman here. So we have this sort of back and forth between the two of them that they never had. But the Marvel heroes have it. The Marvel heroes have this sort of animosity, this I don't think it is an animosity. What is a better word? This competitiveness that's in here, right? So Batman, even though he got no power, he's talking about the best man win. There's no chance he can do anything against Superman, right? Or so we think, right? So you have to remember that they were the world's finest. Like Batman would get on top of Superman's back while Superman's flying. So this idea that they would fight, like Batman would have to get some powers, and then they would have some hook for them to fight. But that's adding something to Batman that he doesn't have beforehand. And who does that? Your Marvel guys. Your Marvel guys have Spider-Man fighting Herald of Galactus, right? So this is, Superman doing his thing for the American public, but it's kind of for the American government. But he's a little more the government stooge in this story. So he's taking out stuff from the Russians. The Joker's running the place, right? The cops are after Batman instead of the Joker, right? So they know where the Joker's going to be, right? They know Batman's going to come and try to do something. And the Gotham police are like, no, right? So we get the whole feared and hated by the world is want to protect through the cops attacking him. Batman, you're under arrest. At the same time they're stopping him, we have the Joker here, and he is just plans on killing. There's nothing to him. He's just pure terrorist. It's not as when I initially saw it, because he was dangerous, I was big on it. But ultimately, he's just a terrorist, right? And this is cool. And watching this, I read this 3 million times. But what's cool here is these panels that have just been mountains and mountains of information. This finally has a story element that happens, right? That we know something terrible is going to happen, right? And we see Dr. Ruth become, get killed in these panels. So that is powerful, right? All this fighting going on where the cops are fighting the wrong enemy. right? And Joker isn't happy even with this, right? Superman is doing his thing, fighting for the government. So this keeps it also at a global scale, because adding Superman made this story bigger. The scope is bigger. It allows Frank to do even more stuff that has more of effect on this thing. It makes the story 100 times bigger. But at the same time, it goes back into when you decide that it's Hunt the Dark Knight and you got Superman in here, he's gonna take care of this as a problem, right? So she's like, the problem is still Batman, right? And but at the same time, we're worried about her. And he changes his lipstick. Batman's getting information from the police, still master of disguise. So this is a very much a Batman scene, right? And he gets chased by the police, right? And Superman is doing his thing overseas. I think this is before Byrne had done his Batman, Superman in solid black. And then we find out that this is terrible, showing that she's totally inept. If the Joker comes in. And of course, they're still tracking him instead of the Joker, who's killed all these people. So he's she Yendel was trying to it's like Yentl. But anyway, and he says good soldier. So they're playing up the whole soldier aspect, which wasn't a part of this. I think people talk, well, this is the heat. I think the heat vision. I think people complain when Byrne did it, but I think Frank Miller might have done that first. And we see he's being able to move ships. He's complaining about Bruce. And a different type of monologue, an internal monologue, but it's, I don't know. Superman did have a lot of internal monologues. He's one of the first, not to go full Hamlet like Stan Lee, but he had a lot of thought, but it was more thought of what he was doing. And, pretty direct about it, that sort of thing. Right, so we got a nice thing at the amusement park. Batman has a gun. He's doing a Mauser, right? But his guns always have these strings in them. It's always trick me. I think it's a regular gun, but he throws his batarang, and I say you're out of your mind, right? And Batman and him are going at it. He always keeps getting lucky. He gets luckier and luckier as the story goes on. Joker missed again. Adds a little Adam West here. And Carrie Kelly, oh man, this is terrible. Look at what the Joker's doing, right? And of course, Batman and the Joker going into the tunnel of love, getting it all, before Alan Moore got to do anything, having them being this, stuck in this race together, right? But Batman couldn't do it. He couldn't kill him. And I think some of these things were re-inked by Frank Miller because he disliked how Klaus had done it. He wanted it to be a little bit more open, right? So then we have The Dark Knight Falls, which is false advertising, right? Joker is dead. Batman spits at him. Got more Wolverine dialogue. And this gets you to your ultimate power fantasy. So it's still feared and hated. And we think Batman is going to die. We say he'll live. And we find out that The Soviets leave, but of course they send a missile off to the U.S., right? And Superman has to stop it. And then having the thing of being able to have this internal monologue actually talk to Superman. And like insult him even though they're nowhere near each other. So this is one of the things we're condensing so much stuff using the art of the narrative panels, right? So Batman, even though it's not a global thing, and somehow it's affected what is it? Gotham. You had these terrible in the prison. Everything's gone awry. The mutants are getting free. The mutants have been free. They're killing and destroying and maiming, right? And then the Sons of Batman, they join in with Batman. Of course, Commissioner Gordon's almost having a heart attack. No, he's all right. Batman decides that he's the law. They take on these, what's those things? They take on the mutants. And Superman has just been a nuclear thing, drained all of his energy. But he can't see the sun, so he don't have no power. And then, of course, the sun reveals itself, and Superman gets his power back. But he's a little worse for wear, right? Some more Bernie Getz sort of things. A little bit of Lois Lane action. And then Batman comes in here, singles out the guy that's been causing the trouble from the last issue, right? He takes care of him. Then Sarah, Commissioner Gordon's wife, actually got out. They don't actually show her. I don't think they show her until Batman Year One, right? Of course, they have to take care of Batman. Then he says, "Where?" Now, all this stuff doesn't really need to happen, right? Do we need a fight between Superman and Batman? We don't. But this is the Marvelization. This is the Marvelization part. We've had so many things: American flag, old school Batman, the grittier Batman. But we've had this aspect of the lost partner, since Captain America was a soldier, and all now Batman's his young wards are now soldiers, like Captain America being a soldier. The internal monologue is just all over here, right? And that's the whole point of having Robin, is for Batman to have someone to talk to, not to have an internal monologue. So we get the Wolverine type stuff, and now we're getting the stuff that's connected to Iron Man, right? So we're finishing this one out. We got the big battle. Superman shows up, bathes it with his X-rays. This isn't a Frank thing. This is in the Superman comic books. Some periods he actually, would shoot X-rays from his eyes, right? So, and I think, I've seen that in a pre-crisis Superman, right? Byrne got rid of that and said he can see many different wavelengths, being able to utilize the rays that are already out there so he could see through things, right? Which makes sense. The tank is taken out. Superman is a little overconfident, right? This is the aspect of how a lot of Marvel writers, like Jim Starlin, when he started writing at Marvel first, would write Superman, where Superman is a little more overconfident because nothing can hurt him, right? But then that's what happens when nothing can hurt you. Immediately, someone hurts you, right? So over time, in reading this, I got really bothered that Batman was tied to a lamppost. But this whole aspect of Batman putting on armor and being able to fight Superman is entirely Iron Man. Batman is not an armor type guy. He's not a guy who can make his own armor. He might be able to buy it, but this idea that you can just, put on armor and fight the Hulk, that's a convention of Iron Man. We can't just say, well, Iron Man did it. Why can Batman do it? Well, Batman isn't Lex Luthor. That's why Lex Luthor has an outfit. Lex Luthor creates kryptonite, not Batman. Iron Man might create kryptonite, but that's something he creates more tech, right? So this is kind of putting a lot of this. And the other part of it is Superman getting his comeuppance. And that, if anything, I already brought it up once. In DC comic books, the villains always want the heroes to get their comeuppance for finally getting beat up by them. But Stan Lee since the fans were asking for heroes to fight other heroes, he would oblige. And in his dialogue, they would always act like the heroes needed their comeuppance. Thor or the Hulk or whoever was losing, they're finally getting theirs, right? But these are the heroes. There's no reason why they should be fighting like this much and have this animosity. And Superman, who should just be taking them apart. Once he hurts them here, he's like, nah, I'm not going to sit here talking to him. And then taking out the fact that these guys are the world's finest. They wouldn't, and even if Batman went crazy, Superman would just take him away. But all through this, he's allowing him to... Where's the speed come from in this armor? How do you power yourself from the city? Now you're also fast as Superman? It's asking a lot to do this. But that's what you get from in the convention of an Iron Man comic. So the point of this is, because it worked, because it sold so much, and so much now people are critiquing it and saying, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. No. People bought into it because they like this in Iron Man. They like it more in Batman, right? So it was seen as a bad thing with the idea that Byrne, who was a Marvel writer, moving over to Superman and became that had to mean that he's Marvelizing it. Nope. This is the first. And this Marvelized it to the nth degree, right? Here's the Iron Man part where Iron Man hits the fatal blow that knocks out the Hulk, but at the same time kills him, right? But this also gives the fans, like the moment where Spider-Man is able to stagger the Hulk, he's able to drop the there's not even going to Firelord. It's Captain America being able to drop Hyde with one punch, right? All this stuff that's in here, right? And he's a joke. There's a government stooge gets taken out. And of course, the saddest part is that Alfred dies. The mansion is gone and Alfred dies, right? Of course, Superman, for some reason, still shows up. He still cares about him. He still has his injury. He's the only man he beat. All this type of stuff here is what happened in the Marvel book. Right? And many other people have beaten Superman, and he's come back and fought them again, right? So Superman should take him out and put him to jail. But he says here, he'll leave me alone now. And in return, I'll stay quiet. And that's where we got the, the stuff people complain about, right? So anyway, and I like the idea that he didn't kill off Batman at the end. That was the idea. Strikes again, we're not doing yet. Trying to find an angle for it. But when he said he won't bother us, oh my goodness. Was him fighting with kryptonite gloves, right? A very DC thing, right? So this is getting back to the Silver Age. So maybe there is something we could try to look at, right? So I did it. I went through it. I showed you the aspects of Captain America, the soldier aspect, the loss of a partner, the Iron Man aspect, the putting on armor, the almost getting beaten, but in a last ditch effort, finding the strength to, or something happens, just trying the strength to stop the person, be able to stop them, but at the same time dying at the same time. That happened not only in What If, it happened in Avengers 163, where Iron Man fights Hercules and the Beast. He has to stop them for some nutty reason, and he is able to knock out Hercules and the Beast, but falls out at the same time, right? And we got feared and hated by the world he sworn to protect, which is the early Batman. So it's more like Frank Miller's taking that back for Batman. So there we go. Those are those elements that have stayed with him, and then they've gotten rid of his partner. His partner's died. They've played up all that symbolism. They've gone the other way with Bane, but this is the aspect of these new conventions that would be a part of Batman for good. Spinner Rack out.